they're coming out and they're standing up and saying we're not going to take it anymore, that life is as good as it is for us today.
That's right. Those that went before, they make the targets on our backs just a little bit smaller.
Yes.
That is so true.
So anytime we have a chance to talk to somebody who, came out in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, it's
took a lot of guts. Took a lot of guts to do that. I know people say that to us sometimes, and it's like, yeah, maybe that's true, but it's like, how much guts does it take to do what you have to do to survive? I don't know. It's nice to hear that. It's nice to have people say, "Oh, that is so gutsy" and everything, but
it's relative. When I came out, I had no fear that, I was going to be randomly beaten on the street.
Yeah.
That I was going to be, pulled out of a restaurant and dragged behind a car or anything like that.
Yeah.
There's still a lot of nasty stuff going on, but it's not nearly as acceptable or as accepted as it was.
Right. So yeah, some of those people that did it way back when, are pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And certainly deserve our gratitude.
And I've heard this mentioned about the history of the GLBT movement. When you are a member of a ethnic or cultural minority, you generally grow up in a household of that ethnic or racial minority.
That's right.
So you are exposed to, you learn some of your history. In the GLBT arena, kids of gay parents don't necessarily end up being gay. They don't necessarily end up learning the history of their civil rights, and it tends to get lost if people don't pay attention. People forget about Richard Ryle, who was murdered right here in Connecticut for being gay in 1982. It just gets lost if nobody pays attention.
Yeah, I know.
So if you can't make it to the New York Public Library, head up to CCSU and don't forget.
Oh, we have a phone call. Good evening, nlcTrans, you're on the air.
Yes, I was wondering your feelings on the cross-dressers using the ladies' restrooms.
Cross-dressers using the ladies' restroom. Good question. Certainly, we stand up for the rights of everybody in the gender community, which would include cross-dressers.
Would you want your you're opening the door for every pervert in town.
Wait a minute. Who are you calling perverts?
No, I'm not talking about a true cross-dresser. I'm talking about if somebody wants to just throw a dress on and walk in the ladies' room.
Yeah, no, I understand that. And that is an argument that's been made before.
It's fallacious.
It is fallacious, because what happens is, we can say, okay, what happens if we allow somebody that isn't a cross-dresser, that's just a pervert, wants to throw on a dress, and he can do whatever he wants. The fact of the matter is that this has never happened. There is no evidence that nobody's ever been arrested for this. It's never happened.
The assumption in your question is that somehow not putting on the dress will stop this person from violating people.
Right.
And that's just not the case. If someone's going to break
for voyeurism, whatever it was.
If someone's going to break the law and peep, they're going to break the law and peep whether they can do it in a dress or not.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's very understandable that people have that fear, that they have that notion, because the bathroom feels like a very private place. But the fact of the matter is that what you wear is not going to stop somebody from breaking the law and doing something to violate your personal space.
Right.
It's just not. These people that want to peep are going to peep whether they can do it in a dress or not.
Yeah.
Well, see, the reason why I ask is because I sometimes have my granddaughter with me, and she's like 7, 8 years old, and I'm not going to, I don't take her in the men's room, and I'm definitely not going to go in with her into the ladies'
room.
room.
Right.
And I would be, to be honest with you, I would be uncomfortable if I saw,
Yeah.
man in a dress walking in the ladies' room after she walked in.
And I understand where that discomfort comes from, but how often have you worried about the women in the ladies' room peeping on her? The assumption that men in general are predatory and are going to take advantage of people who can't help themselves is itself a form of discrimination that we all need to work on. Because that's the notion that causes the fear, is that guys are predatory, guys are going to take advantage of your 6-year-old girl. And that's just not the case. You can look at the criminal statistics. It just does not happen as often as people believe it does by huge factors. So whether you're going to put one of these imaginary guys in a dress, you're just compounding fallacies, frankly.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
You really don't have that much to worry about. I think it's much more likely statistically that your granddaughter will be hit by lightning.
All right, thank you very much.
And we don't want that to happen either.
We don't want that to happen either, but the statistics are very, very, very rare.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you so much for calling. It's interesting. I have a 12-year-old grandson.
Yeah.
And of course, every time we're in a store or something, he goes to the men's room, and you know what? He goes in that men's room, and every time a man walks into that men's room behind him, it makes me nervous.
Yes.
He's a child. Of course, he's a big kid, and if anybody messed with him, he would probably throw them out the door. But I mean, he's a very big kid. I'm quite sure he could take care of himself. But still, it makes me nervous. But it has nothing to do. It's just anybody.
Well, this raises an interesting point, and with the theory of just-in-time learning. Earlier this week on NPR, they had a woman on. She's an author. She's the author of the book Free Range Kids.
Right.
I do not remember her name, but the book is called Free Range Kids. And one of the things that she talks about is how protective our society has gotten, how insular our society has gotten around protecting children. And her book, obviously Free Range Kids, suggests that kids ought to be allowed to run around and play more. She says, you can look at Sesame Street from 1975, and kids are running around an abandoned lot, crawling through construction pipes, no adults around. They came home when they were done.
Yeah.
The statistics that she pulled out is that there was a rise in crime, and it has since fallen. That kids, as far as kids being abducted, kids being taken off the streets or pulled from shopping centers and stuff because they're left alone, the rate at which it happens has fallen back down to 1970s, 1972, I think, rates. And that if you were to put your kid outside, and she actually interviewed a few people, how long do you think it would take if you put your kid on the curb and let them play outside unattended before a predator would come by and steal your kid? And there were people who were very legitimately